control. Ballin' out of control. Ballin', 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 ballin' out of control. Ballin' out of control. Ballin', 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 ballin' out of control. Ballin' out of control. Ballin', 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 ballin' out of control.
This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Let freedom ring from the Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped mountains of Colorado. Familiar places for us. We're honoring the great Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, this week as his birthday is passed. And just so great to honor a great man, even on the show. Listening to the speech today was a phenomenal speech of I Have a Dream. I've listened to it 1,000 times, and each time I get a new meaning. So tonight I'm glad that you're on with us, those who signed on already. We have a great show prepared for you tonight. I hope you fasten your seat belts, get ready. We got some great topics. It's game time. Let's go. So, we do have a guest with us here tonight. Of course, we always have DJ Sparks in the building.
What up?
He always is here to give us some insight on our topics. Great man of wisdom. We're happy to have you. And today I have a guest that I'm going to let him really tell you who he is when we get into the show. But we have Mr. Jamal Bowen here today, a great, great man doing great things in the community. I've known him since he was a young boy, and he'll tell you more about that as we get into the show. But I'm just so proud of him and the things that he's doing. He's doing big things. But as we just played the speech, I want to start off. I listened to that speech again today, even on the way here. And a lot of people hear that I Have a Dream speech there, but my question is, how many people really dissected the speech? Really listened to it word for word? One of the things that today that I heard that I hadn't even heard in all the time I heard the speech, when he was talking about voting, he said that people in Mississippi couldn't vote, but the people in New York felt that they didn't have anything to vote for. So when you think about that today and you think about back then and say, okay, well, they thought voting was useless because of the way of the world, the way things were. And then another part, during those Jim Crow law times, where the northern and the south things were going on, one group of people couldn't even do it. But the other group of people thought it was useless if they did do it. What's your thought on that?
You have to look at the power of the voice. And I feel like in times we fear to use our voice. We forget the power that we have in the sense that we're okay with what's going on in our lives. We're content with it. Oh, it's not bothering me, so why do I need to even do something about it? And so you have to look at it like it affects all of us. Absolutely. And so we must understand that if someone else is going through it, we may be going through it soon and eventually. And it's showing in this time and generation now.
Oh, man. More prevalent than ever.
Right. Great answer on that. What's your thought on that, DJ Sparks?
Oh, I definitely second that motion because you look at the current presidency that we have in, a lot of people thought that same way. It ain't going to make no difference if I don't go vote. And if you didn't go vote, guess what happened? This is what we have. You know, the president that we have today. You know, because a lot of people felt that exact same way. And the power of voice is exactly what you said. You know, it's very powerful. If you don't go out there and utilize that voice, then you'll never be heard. You know, so I think it's a very important. And I mean, you got a good point with back in those Jim Crow days, because I was just talking about that. You know, because the other day I was walking down the street and I just mentioned to this lady, you know, hey, how you doing? You know what I'm saying? And she said, you don't have permission to say hello to me. I was like, wait a minute. What did you just say to me? She said, you don't have permission to say hello to me. Older white lady. So, you know, me being a black man just walking by casually saying hello. You know, and then back in the Jim Crow days, black people did not have permission, you know, to speak to white people. You know what I'm saying? You had to hold your head down and just walk past, you know what I'm saying? And she's had that same mentality to this day. You know, so I think it was very important, that speech of Dr. Martin Luther King, and also very important to vote, because now you can get away from those type of things, but still some people have that mentality.
Right, and then that's why I brought those points up of, you know, his speech or his thought on the people that couldn't vote and didn't feel like there was no use.
Yeah.
But honestly, Dr. Martin Luther King, although he didn't have the title president, in my eyes,
was.
You know, because there is no Barack Obama without Dr. Martin Luther King.
That's true.
There is none.
That's true.
You know, so during them times, he may not have that title, but his impact is still alive today. And then also, although his title was I Have a Dream, I was thinking about that today. I said, I wish. Now, I don't even have the audacity or right to even touch even a word in this speech, but to me, I don't think it was a dream. I think it was a vision.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Dr. Martin Luther King had a vision. He's seen these things happening.
Yeah.
And although he's not alive today, if you look around, these things are happening that he had a vision years ago. He had a vision that, you know, people would be able to work together and go to church together, different races and ethnic backgrounds. It's happening today. And also the word freedom. I did not know all of these years when he was talking about being free. He wasn't just talking about slavery. Most people, that's all they related to.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was talking about a spiritual freedom.
Yes.
Because his faith in God was so strong.
Yes.
He was talking about something beyond physical.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to touch on, can any of you remember any quotes or things that Martin Luther King said that ring a bell that you want to talk about?
Definitely when he said, let freedom ring. He was planting a seed.
Yeah.
If you think about it, he's planting a seed for the generations to come.
Yeah.
And so it's our obligation to continue that seed. You know, sometimes when in history we have people pass you a dirty baton, running track.
Yeah.
But he was passing in something very positive. That seed.
Absolutely.
So it's up to us to grab that seed and continue on.
Absolutely.
And that's how I feel. I feel that in our generation, and sometimes is that we find ourselves in situations that we blame everybody else.
Yes.
My father wasn't this. My mother wasn't this, and she just keeps passing down the dirty baton. But what Martin Luther King was doing, he was giving life, breathing life into our communities, into where we come from. And when I let that freedom ring, it was a bell, just boom, eye-opening.
Absolutely.
And what you're touching on, he's touching on what we call generational curses things that's passed down from generations.
Yep.
And that's why today, even us, men that are older and getting older, we have to know that the things that we work for and the things that we're doing today, we may not see it today.
Absolutely.
But our grandchildren, our children, those are like Dr. Martin Luther King. He's not here to see some of the things that are taking place. He's not seeing the tree of the seeds that he's planted.
Absolutely.
But he understood that it was valuable and what was going to happen down the line. Absolutely. Well, I know a lot of people jump on the measure of a man speech that quote that a lot of people love that. And today I was reading some of his quotes, and one that I looked past all this time jumped out to me today. I could not believe it. Powerful quote. And I know we only got an hour to show up in. We probably can spend a couple hours on Dr. Martin Luther King himself. I know we got to get into our guests, some things to share. And it's kind of a conflict that we were talking about Dr. Martin Luther King with you here. We're going to give you some time. We're going to give you some time to tell people who Jamal Bowen is. But one of the quotes that he wrote was, "We will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Let me read that again for you. "We will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." I had to read that a couple of times. And it also goes back to a scripture I read where it says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kiss of the enemy is deceitful. So what that means, this quote means that sometimes our friends' silence of stuff that we're going through, and really to be truthful and honest with, is the people that's close to us. That their silence is going to hurt us more than what the enemy says to us. Somebody that we feel that's against us.
Absolutely.
It's the people that's close to us. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, oh man. I think you right on point. You know what I'm saying? Right on point with that, because if you gotta keep your you gotta keep your enemies closer, your friends closer, your enemies closer, you know what I'm saying? And that just attests to that statement, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, don't realize the fact that, if you have this friend over here that you think is close to you, it could be that one that's stabbing you in your back. You know what I'm saying? At the same exact time, man. And I want to just reiterate, I got a quote about Dr. Martin Luther King. I just posted up on my Instagram page, one that I really remember and one that I kind of like live by as well, you know what I'm saying? It says, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But if by all means necessary, keep moving. By any means necessary.
Oh man,
that's wow.
Yeah. I mean, this quote after quote, it's almost like you can pull up any speech by Dr. Martin Luther King and be inspired by it, because it's just the person he was.
Yeah.
So if you live a certain life, the things that you say are going to be more impactful.
Absolutely.
By your walk and how you live day to day.
Absolutely.
So that's why anything you can pull up, anything he said.
It had meaning too.
And also, I was watching some videos where one of the videos that I was most impressed by is when he met with Muhammad Ali. And they interviewed him, and they wanted to know what they talked about in their private meeting. Muhammad Ali was just so straightforward.
He's like, they know your business.
What happened to our own business or minds of businesses? But you know what? Muhammad Ali put his arm around Dr. Martin Luther King and said, "We're brothers." Now. That was part of his speech. He said that, one of his dreams was that Jews and Protestants and all these different people with different backgrounds will be able to come together and put that aside. So here you have somebody who's a devout Muslim and a Christian that says, hey, it's bigger than our belief system, but we have to move beyond it, and was able to really talk and meet.
Absolutely.
And he helped people, and that's the impact he had to help people like that. So another one of the things that really caught me is one of the things that he said in a quote well, he was speaking. It wasn't a quote. One of his speeches, he said something that really blew my mind as well. He said there was only, and this goes to his I Have a Dream speech. Mm-hmm. He said there's only two true ways of being free. Mm. Can any of you guess what those are? Mm. He said there's only two true ways of being free.
That's deep in itself. That's deep in itself. Man, go ahead.
All right, so I know there's a couple viewers out there that probably know the answers. You know, there's some probably some avid Dr. Martin Luther King followers and have studied the man. But the two things that he said, the two ways, and it really, really blew my mind, was the first one was forgive others of all wrongs. One of the toughest things
to do. Yep.
To do.
We talked about that a little bit last week.
One of the very toughest things to do is forgive. He said, forgive others of any wrongs they have done to you.
Yeah.
So many. We live day to day. We hold grudges on this. I mean, we may see somebody in the next lane at the stoplight.
Yep.
And be upset with them because they didn't move fast enough. I got a grudge.
Yep.
We are so unforgiving
in
this world today. People hold on to things for years and years and years. And why is that so, Jamal? Why do you think that's so difficult?
Man, forgiveness. It's difficult in a sense because if you look at it, we feel like we're surrendering to that person by forgiving them. We feel like they are getting the upper power because, oh, they did me wrong and I want to be even with them, you know, that type of thing. And I have wrote down, you know, forgiveness is what you do for yourself. You can't heal unless you forgive for yourself.
Absolutely.
And I feel that in times we hold grudges and we're so upset at this person, or this person's our enemy in a sense, that we don't even know how to forgive.
Absolutely.
We are in a culture that we just disrespect each other. And we do things to each other and we hold on to it until we're 50, 60 years old. That person died and went on to the Lord and you still upset. They done forgot about you. They're gone.
Yep.
And so it's become a culture thing.
And DJ Sparks, I guess my other question would be, do we really realize that we are more affected by, you know, the person? We are more affected than the person that we won't forgive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It affects us more. When we see that person might not even be thinking about you.
Absolutely.
And might have gotten over, or you know, and then you really giving them power because you're holding on to it.
Absolutely, and that's what I mentioned last week when I was talking about the situation between me and my father. It took me to forgive, number one, myself, and then number two, to forgive him, because it hurt me worse than anything, like you were saying, because the simple fact that I kept holding the grudge, being mad for stuff that, you know, happened that, you know, I didn't have no control over, but that he did. But then I just kept being mad at him, you know, and just kept being mad at him. But then when I start to forgive myself, and then I started to forgive my father, man, you talk about freedom. It's just like a whole weight just lifted off of me. You know what I'm saying? I felt lightheaded. I was like, man, whoa, this feeling was something totally different. And now, like I said, me and my father best friends, you know, because I took the initiative and said, I forgive you. You know what I'm saying? And I took the burden off of myself and just let it go.
Right, but you know what the sad part about it is?
Some people can't.
I won't forgive you. I won't forgive you, Jamal, for something you did to me.
Yep.
But guess what? I done something to you, DJ Sparks,
that's right,
that I may need forgiveness for.
That's right.
So it's so people forget. Okay, well, like I said,
Yep.
Jamal, I'm holding this grudge because you did something to me, but I'm forgetting what I done to you, DJ Sparks.
That's true.
That happens so often that we
yes.
don't think about things we do.
That's right.
And you know what? The things that irritate me the most, DJ Sparks, is the things that I sometimes do to other people.
Yep.
I run my own business. Of course, I have the book. And a lot of times, I'm always pressed for time, and I'm running. I'm trying to juggle 5 balls at a time.
Yeah.
And I'm running behind sometimes.
Yeah.
But if somebody's coming to my office and they're a couple minutes late, I am irritated by that. So,
oh my goodness.
It's a double standard. We don't hold ourselves to the same standard that we hold others to.
That's right.
But I encourage all my listeners. I see a lot of people have tuned in. Also, if you do want to call in, you can call in. The number is 720-708-4189. We can take your calls if you have any questions. And please feel free to send some messages. I see a lot of people that's with us. Thank you, Josh Proby, for joining us. C.T. Flemings, Mrs. Joy Banks from Pennsylvania. Thank you for tuning in. Cortez Kat Thompson, a lot of you that joined in, we appreciate you being a part of the show. The second part, I gotta give you the second part. I only gave you one. So we're talking about the two things that Dr. Martin Luther King stated. These two things will make you free. And the first one, of course, was to forgive others of any wrongs. Now, the second one, it takes a certain quality of a man or person, such as Dr. Martin Luther King. It's something that's very hard for us to do, and it was a secret to why I understand why he thought this was so important as far as the second part of being free. And it was not to have fear of death.
Oh my goodness. That's powerful.
Now, we could probably do a whole
show.
Different show. So, to not have fear of death makes you free.
That's powerful.
So, what I get from it, and I'll let you give your thoughts on it, is that if you live in your life with no regrets, and you of course, extraordinary faith in God, then you won't fear death. If you live in every day, in every moment, to the best of your ability, not perfect. I'm not saying living a perfect life. I'm saying if you're living every day with no regrets towards people, not just fear of death in itself, but you may have a loved one that's older in age, and then you don't want, the worst thing is going to a funeral and having some regrets of a person that passed because you didn't take advantage of when they were living.
That's right.
So the fear of death, not only in self, but other people, because guess what? It's inevitable. Everybody is going to be, there's a time to die for everyone. So his fear, he didn't have any fear of it, obviously. I mean, they were bombing his house. They were, I mean, the threats and assassinations and stuff that, have you heard of any real attempts of Barack Obama?
Oh yeah. That was,
well, I mean, I know there was, obviously. I know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, real incidents where his family, I mean, these people were throwing bombs in their living room window back then. I mean, he was in really danger. His life was in danger, but he didn't even fear it because he seen the vision. He felt like all that he, was worth fighting for. And he didn't care because he knew also his faith in God, that if something happened to him, his faith in God was so strong he wasn't even worried about it. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts is he had a purpose. Definitely a vision, but the purpose, when you have a purpose in life, you're not too worried about what's going to happen after.
That's right.
And so he had a calling on his life, and he knew that eventually it may lead to death. But the outcome was to touch every person that he came across.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, as I said before, we probably can have a whole show on Dr. Martin Luther King itself, but I'm gonna read this thing, one of my books. I don't know if you can, although I write I'm an avid book reader, and one of my favorites was Martin versus Malcolm. And really, I studied this book and talked about the upbringing of Malcolm X and Martin, and I got a chance to really learn about them. But he wrote this, and I want to read this, and then we'll take a short break. But this is one of the frustrating moments that he had. A lot was going on, and he was unable to cope with some of the things that was going on. So I'm going to read this with, just follow me. He says, unable to cope with his frustration and despair, King turned to God, the God that he had been taught about as a child. And this is what he said. Something said to me, you can't call on Daddy now. He's in Atlanta, 175 miles away. You got to call on that something, on that person that your daddy used to tell you about. That power that can make a way out of no way. And I discovered then that religion had to become real to me, and I had to know God for myself. And I bowed down over the top, over that cup of coffee. I never will forget it. Oh yes, I prayed a prayer. And I prayed out loud that night. I said, Lord, I'm down here trying to do what's right. I think I'm right. I think the cause that we represent is right. But Lord, I must confess that I am faltering. I'm losing my courage. And I can't let the people see me like this, because if they see me weak and losing my courage, they will begin to get weak. It was in the midst of this crisis of faith that King experienced a heavy burden being lifted from his shoulders, and he felt the liberating presence of God as never before. Almost out of nowhere, I heard a voice. He said, Martin Luther, stand up for righteousness, stand up for justice, stand up for truth, and lo, I will be with you, even into the end of the world. After that experience, he said, I was ready to face anything. So, one of his most frustrating moments. So now, he said 3 nights after his vision in the kitchen, as he called it, his closest friend came up to him during a meeting and said, your house has been bombed. To everyone's amazement, King was not visibly shaken. I accepted the words of the bombing calmly, King said later, because my experience with God had given me new strength and trust. I know now that God is able to give us the interior resources to face the storms and problems of life. He quietly left the meeting, and when he arrived home, he found his wife and baby safe. But an angry crowd of blacks gathered with guns and other weapons and were prepared to retaliate. Now let's not get panicking, King said to them. We cannot solve this problem with retaliatory violence. We must meet violence with nonviolence. We must love our brothers no matter what they do to us. Remember, if I am stopped, this movement will not stop, because God is with the movement. So this was just one of those moments that I just thought was so powerful. His house being bombed. His wife and his kid are at home. But he's calm. He has no worry. He had faith that his purpose, and God was, he had to have some really strong faith in God. Oh, absolutely. We talked about strength as a man. His faith in God had to be extraordinary. So we're going to take a quick break. We're not going to sign off Facebook. I know a lot of people are signed in. I see my uncle John Gooden from Pennsylvania signed in. I see Eric Gooden, Angela Gresham. Hello. Josh here in Denver, Colorado. Aaron Smith, one of Jamal's close friends. So when we come back, we're going to get into who is Jamal Bowen. Like I said, we're not going to sign off Facebook. We'll take a couple minute quick break, and then we're going to get into this great man. He's going to tell you about some of the things he's doing. Thank you again for showing up. We appreciate it. So in a couple minutes, we're going to stay signed on to Facebook. We'll take a quick short break, maybe play some music or something for you, and just for a couple seconds, and then we're going to get into who is Jamal Bowen.
Oh, hey there. Sorry to bother you. I just wanted to take a minute to tell you about Aunt Jemima's original syrup. I know, weird, right? What's a Canadian doing talking about an American syrup? But hear me out, eh? That Aunt Jemima's original syrup is just so darn tasty, don't you know? Plus, she just looks like one heck of a nice lady. Hey, I'm not moosing around here. I'm Canadian, and I know syrup. Aunt Jemima's original syrup. Get a boodle today, won't you, buddy? Moosing around. Watch out for this one, eh?
Welcome back. Took a short break. We had a couple great questions we're going to get into. Jamal Bowen, of course, but there was a couple people that had some really interesting questions that I really want to touch on. The first question is by Mr. Aaron Smith. His question was, what do you guys think Dr. Martin Luther King would say in the present turmoil we are living in? Government shutdown, murders of each other, etc. Great question, Aaron. I think as well in terms of the government shutdown, I think he was fighting for citizenship of, African Americans or black people back then.
Rights.
Right now, Trump, it's almost a different situation, different time, but it's still about citizenship, about wall or keeping certain people out of the U.S. It's all. I think Dr. Martin Luther King, Aaron, would probably point out that the world is God's, and the earth is God's, and because he had that faith in God and everything tied into that, and really I think that's where he would probably comment on that. Now the murders, I have a different mindset on that because the murders that we see now today is because, a lot of things we're seeing is because we have the technology of phones, iPhones, and Facebook. And can you imagine some of the things that happened back then during those times that wasn't recorded or have no? God. It's just we have access to see some of these things. A lot of stuff has been happening for years and years and years. A lot of stuff is not new. Yep. Much respect to some of the young men who has lost their lives to police brutality. We pray for their families and justice. But you got to think about it. How many families and how many people were hanging from trees and got drugged by truck? There's a lot of things that happened back then that's not even recorded. So I think, Dr. Martin Luther King would probably have the same mindset. And his mindset was, you can't solve hate with hate. He just had a humility that said that you conquer everything by love. And I think he still would have had his nonviolent approach, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. A lot of this with the shutdown and the things that are going on is just building separation. That's all it is. Separate people. And I feel that Dr. Martin Luther King would want us to come together, of course. But since we live in this type of generation, this age, we have to be able to use the technology we have to make our voices be heard. And so, like Brother Maurice said, back in that day, tons of people were being hung. Tons of people were being killed. But now we in the generation that we're able to see that, share it, and make our voice be heard. So we have the voice, we just have to make it happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I second that, because, you got to think about it. With this government shutdown and everything going on, the current president that we have has to remember that he an immigrant himself. You know what I'm saying? That his wife is an immigrant. He don't even belong in the country he's supposed to be running. Come on, man, really? But that's a whole nother show. but like you said, I second that sentiment. Imagine, like you said, some of the things if cell phones was invented back then that we would have seen would have been terribly worse than what's going on right now. But I think he would have still had that same approach, and he got that approach from Gandhi, mind you, who was doing non-violence in India, So, and that was who he got his influence from to be able to do what he did, which is fight it with love and, of course, strong faith in God, and he would have done the exact same thing. Then we need a leader like that today, because it's like the younger people today, the younger generation today don't have that type of leadership. Because a leader like Dr. Martin Luther King seems like it's gone. We need somebody to step up like that to help this younger generation, because this younger generation do not care. That's the reason why the police fear them and shoot first and ask questions later. So I think that, if we had some leadership to step up and help guide these younger people to think first, rationally, before they react, then I think we'd have probably some of the same situations, but it'll be better for the younger generation going forward because they have they're so hot-headed right now. They don't have any respect for authority. So of course, the authority going to be fearing the younger people first of all. You know, and that's the reason why they shoot first and ask questions later.
I agree. I agree with you. Exactly what you said. I had a quote that I wrote. I kind of wrote it myself. But we tend to destroy people that go against us.
So absolutely.
It's perfect what you just said.
Perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
And also, one of the most powerful things Dr. King said was, one of his dreams was, is that we would not be judged by the color of our skin, but
the content of our character.
The content of our character. That's, to me, I believe that today.
Absolutely.
I believe if you have good character and the way you treat other people, that's how you're going to be treated.
Absolutely.
You know, there's some people, some older people or some people that, on both sides. It's not just white people. There's some prejudice in us, you know. So I think it goes both ways, and it's not one-sided. But you know something, I believe our character will outwin anything.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's critical when it comes to that. And we're only going to give our president a small piece of our show. We don't want to give him too much time.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I will touch on as we move forward, my opinion, this wall. Now, don't believe that the businessman that Mr. Trump is, that is just because he just want to protect people. There's some incentive that's probably not being disclosed about, he's a businessman. You know, it ain't just about the protection of the United States. And what people don't know is that the prisons that some of these people are being thrown in at the borders, a lot of them are full profit prisons. They're owned privately owned. So it's all about business. You know, he can paint the picture how he wants. But believe me, there's an agenda with a president like ours. All right, so now let's move on. Let's get into the main part of our show. Thank you so much for sharing about Dr. Martin Luther King and just sharing about the show in general about honoring the late Dr. Martin Luther King. So now I want to get into the question of who is Jamal Bowen. Now, I can answer a little bit about who was Jamal Bowen. Right. But he's going to have to answer who is Jamal Bowen. And who was Jamal Bowen? I met him when he was actually a young kid, and I was doing chess clubs in the youth program, years ago when I was in Colorado. So it's really a good feeling to see a young man. How old was you then? Maybe?
30 now. Back then?
Yeah.
Well, 16, 15.
I won't say it because you're going to get my age. You know what I mean? I'm telling you. But he was a teenager, and now he's grown into a man that's doing some great things, and not even where he sits now. I'm really encouraged that I believe this man is going to be in front of a lot of people and is going to influence a lot of people in this world. Very, very wise guy. So I'm going to give the mic to you. I want you to tell the people that's joined in with us, who is Jamal Bowen?
All right. Thank you. Who is Jamal Bowen? Foremost, I'm a man. Black man. I take pride in that. I learned from my parents that you must take pride in yourself and not be ashamed where you come from. Because at the end of the day, when I walk around in society, they see a black man, a young black man. So at the end of the day, I am a danger. But not only a danger, I'm an educator. So that makes me even more dangerous. So I have a target more on my back. Foremost, I'm a father. I'm a brother. I'm a nephew, a cousin. But foremost, I'm a man that shows people the way, in the sense of that they're able to understand where they're coming from and where they can go. When I met Brother Maurice, I'm not going to lie, I was a wild young guy, man. Had anger issues, mad at the world, mad at my father in some incident, and just didn't know where to go. But just men like himself and other mentors that just took that opportunity and sit down and really talk to me and pick my brain. And I think that they were able to give back, so I'm the person that give back as well. And so that's what I see.
Great man. You guys don't even, he's being a little modest. Oh boy, the man is doing some big things. So, you know, you gave a little piece of who you are so people can kind of get an idea of where you came from. I like how you touched on your present state when we met, how you had some issues and being able, those are things that's going to help people when you're able to be open and say, hey, I had some real anger issues, or I was a wild kid, because I do it all the time, man. Honestly, I'll tell you this, you're 16 and my 16, you was an angel. You talking about wow at 16. Man, when I think back to those ages and some of the things I was doing, it's only by the grace of God, really, right, that I am who I am right now. But you know what? You've done some things recently that I was really impressed by, and just moving around the world. You recently. I want you to tell the people about your trip to Liberia.
Yes.
With that, just give them, because I seen also. I want you to touch on. I seen a picture of you in a classroom setting, doing some teaching there. But just tell the people about the trip and why you went.
Okay.
And one of the main things that you got from the trip.
Okay, definitely. So I went, what was it, 2017, so almost 2 years ago now. I had the opportunity to go to Monrovia, Liberia. My parents are originally from Liberia. My father was an ambassador accredited to Liberia. No, ambassador of Liberia accredited to Kuwait. So he served that country. He served it with pride. He served it with integrity. He loved that country. And so when he passed, Olubanki King Ekareli, who was the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, called my stepmother and was like, how are the kids doing? What are they doing? And things like that. And she was like, well, Jamal, he's a PhD student. He's doing some work with the youth. He's just trying to make a change. And she was like, okay, have him contact me. So I sent her an email. She was like, okay, let's have a phone conversation. We talked about 30 minutes. 30 minutes within, she was like, I need you to come to Liberia. So during the time in Liberia, they were getting ready for the elections, presidential elections. And so, you know, you have family that are a little fearful. They're like, no, don't go. It's going to be violent. People are upset with the current state and things like that. And so I took the chance. And I thank God I took the chance because it opened my eyes. A little background history going back was my mother, I was born in Washington, D.C. And my mom was planning on raising me in Liberia. So I was about a year old, and we had to be airlifted due to war. And so I'm going back to Liberia now, let's say 28 years later, after being airlifted, and now I'm going back. And so once I landed there, I met family, got to see my family, and like we said, technology is a big thing because I was able to connect with them way before I even got the chance to go to Liberia. And so it was amazing with technology and how we are in this day and age. But I was able to get there. I met with Minister Banky, or Auntie Banky, I call her. And then from there, we got to work. I got the opportunity to meet the former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I met her before her term was up. I had the opportunity to go to a school called Diversified in Painesville, Liberia. I had the opportunity to speak to those students as well as help them. Because with Liberia, they call this thing, they call it scholarship. But it really means like me or you giving them money to go to school. And so a lot of them don't go to school because they can't afford. So you have kids 5 years old working and hustling because they can't afford to go to school. So that's why I say here in the U.S. we're blessed. Privilege. It's mandatory. You have to go to school, right? And so with them, they didn't have that opportunity. And so I was there helping in the sense of, you know, I'm not going to be able to pay out of my pocket, but get future leaders or leaders like yourself to come join with me and be able to help these people, my people. And so I had the opportunity to go to Cuttington University, which is in Bone County, which was like an hour away from Monrovia. We stayed there for about a week. We had, you know, callers, so people were calling in like maybe there's an incident going on, someone's being beat up, and so we'd have responders go to them as fast as they can. And so it opened my eyes to see that this is where I came from. Yeah, I lost my father, but this is something he wanted me to do. Was be able to go back and help those people, help my people in the sense of education, expertise, things like that. And so I took great pride in that.
Yeah.
I was there for about 2 months, but just the people I was able to connect with was something to cherish forever. Just being able to meet a president, of a different country, or just meeting a president in general before her term is up, was one of the most special things I ever had to see.
Wow.
And I told her, my father loved the country. She said she agreed. She said he did love the country. He served it well. And so I take pride in that. I hold on to that because coming back here, I want the same thing. And so, Liberia was wonderful. I had the opportunity to go to Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, for a launch of a game. And so what I did was I helped with the creation of a game, which is like African leaders, emergent African leaders. And it was just like, so pretty much it was like you had questions and then you answered the questions. So you had either you could agree with this answer or disagree with this answer and come up with your own answer. But it was just to spark your thinking, critical thinking, and to spark conversation. And so I had a great opportunity to go out there for a couple of days and just be able to help in any way I could.
And thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of times we have to see other situations in life and cultures and travel a little bit to understand what we have in our position. Because sometimes I don't think we appreciate. What I heard is that I have a 12-year-old, and sometimes I really had to almost put them in a headlock to take the trash out. And sometimes kids today, they don't even want to get up and go to school. They don't even understand that you just said 5-year-old kids is working there and don't have no education. They don't even have a right to go to school. They have to work at 5 years old. That's unbelievable, and every kid here has the privilege of an education, and it's mandatory. So, so how much, let me ask you this, what did that do for you in terms of the technology and just seeing whether, I don't know, some people were the clothes they wore or shoes or lack thereof, what did that do in terms of your mindset of how you were raised here in the U.S.?
Yeah, definitely. It made me not take anything for granted. A lot of them, they dress like how we dress in the U.S., but some, may have different flippers on, or they call them slippers. But it just made me appreciate what we have. Like, the roads are messed up, and so, it's hard on the cars. Some people are just walking, selling, like, waters, selling different things like that. And so it just really opened my eyes because it made me see where my parents came from. It made me value where they came from. And to teach my kids, never take anything for granted. Because it can be taken away in a matter of moments, And it comes back to the leadership. Definitely Liberia's had many issues, Ebola, different types of leaders, things like that. And it comes down to the leadership. And what Liberia needs is a leader that's going to love them and love that country. Not just want that country for themselves or want that money or whatever they're getting, but really truly love that country to the point they're able to invest in. And that's what we lack in the world. We lack leaders who love what they do. We need leaders who are passionate about what they're going to do. And so that's a main issue with Liberia, is the resources, but the leaders that are in place are not really pushing those resources.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Would you like to go back to your country and become that leader?
It's funny you say that. I get that. I get that a lot. I get that a lot.
Great question.
If the opportunity presents itself, I definitely would go back and help in any way I can.
Yeah, because I think that may be your destiny, to become that leader of that country. Because, like you said, you got a passion for it. You went back. You learned a lot from it. Your father loved the country. It seems like you love the country as well from where you came from. And you got the mindset, and you're young enough to be that leader. So, why not go back and run for office of your own country?
It's funny you say that. One of the prominent, eminent women, she said that to me. She's like, yeah, come back and run.
Yeah.
The people know you. So the thing with Liberia or African countries is that once they see you and you're there with them and you eat, pretty much break bread with them,
yeah,
they can vouch for you. And so, since I was able to be there, even though I wasn't there as long as I wanted to be, I was there for a period of time, and I did mingle with the people.
Yeah.
They know, some will know who I am, some remember, but they
You touched on something, but you didn't really get into it. But well, you know, I want you used the term, you said lost father.
Okay.
You lost your father.
Right.
Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, definitely. My father was Kona K. Blackett, ambassador, Kona K. Blackett. Yeah, losing him was tough. You know, it's something, you know, any young man, you always earn for your father. Even though you may not say that and you were so much around your mother, but your father is who shows you the way. That's the bloodline. And losing him was hard. So what happened was he passed on March 28th, 2017. What happened was he went back to Liberia. The president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, she called everybody back for like a meeting or some type of conference. And so he went back, he did what he had to do, and then he ended up making a stop in Nigeria. And then I remember getting that call a week before. It was like, Dad's in the hospital. I was like, what? You know what I mean? It just hit me by surprise. And so a little bit after that, a week after, he ended up passing. But it affected me. I mean, I was upset. I was angry. Didn't want to talk because I felt like I needed more to learn from him. But sometimes as a man, sometimes you got to be able to figure things out yourself. And I feel like what he taught me was good enough. And the purpose is for me to carry on what he taught me and just add on to it. And so, I mean, he's hard shoes to fill. I never want to fill his shoes because I want to fill my own. I respect him. I always will respect him, love him. But at the end of the day, I'm my own man. And so,
yeah, you're your own man, but you have to understand that some of the greatness and just getting a little glimpse of who your father was. You know, don't believe that you don't have some of them traits and some of them leadership skills, and they're translating. And I see them, so don't take that for granted. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. I know sometimes it's tough to talk about losing close people like parents, and I appreciate you being open. So other people that are dealing with situations like that, they can feel okay about sharing and talking about it. So now let's get into winding down, but let's talk about what you're doing now and to the importance. Me being an entrepreneur for several years or several businesses you've known about. Tell me the importance of you being an entrepreneur right now. The importance of it.
The importance is definitely using your ideas. That's important. Pushing yourself. I know a lot of people are tired of working for somebody and things like that, but sometimes you may have to work for that person, but use that as a stepping stool to build your business. And that's something I've been doing. Currently right now, I'm an instructor at the Community College of Denver, teaching intro to business and entrepreneurship, and that's what I tell my students is use what you have to get where you want to go. And so definitely, I use every experience that I've been through. I have so many no's, but I keep knocking on that door. I don't allow me being an entrepreneur I don't allow those no's to stop me to where I'm going to go. And so being an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to take a no, but keep pushing through to get that yes.
You hit it on the head. Now, in my opinion, you got two phases or two different kind of people when it comes to entrepreneurship. There's a lot of people that have a desire to be an entrepreneur. It's in them. They have a drive. They have a seed planted. But then you have others who actually take the time to learn the practical steps to become an entrepreneur. So the desire is one part, the dream, the desire to be an entrepreneur, but actually the steps of becoming that is a whole nother level. Being able, and when I first opened my first business, I thought I had to know everything. Today we have so many resources online. You have SCORE that help you with business plans. There's so many things, and all you have to do is ask. There's every part of your business, whether it's the accounting, whether it's QuickBooks, or we got so many tools to operate your business. You don't have to be a genius to be an entrepreneur. And if you're lacking a part that's needed in the business, then there's resources for that. You just have to have the vision. A lot of people in my opinion, think that they have to hit the lottery. They think they got to have a boatload of money to start a business and be an entrepreneur. I've learned that that's the smallest piece that you need is the finances. Because guess what? If you have the right vision and you write it down and you have the right plan, there's a bank or there's investors, there's somebody going to believe in that plan if it's written correctly. You know, and like you said, a lot of people that don't want to work for themselves. What does that mean? I hear a lot of people say that. But I believe do what you can until you can do what you want.
There you go.
You do what you have to do. If you have to work for somebody for a year or two, and because realistically, you know, you don't want to be overcapitalized and starting a business and you can't even pay your bills.
Yep.
The business is going to fail.
Yep.
You know, so your thoughts on that, and then just talk about, you know, the PhD. You kind of keeping that secret. The PhD student.
Yeah, definitely. You have to have the desire. I agree. I mean, when I first started, so I have a program called Empowering Community Entrepreneurs. And so when I started that program, I had just received my master's. I have my master's in organizational management and public administration. And so I started off at a different venue, and at the time, nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew Jamal, nobody cared so much. It was this young guy trying to teach us about business. I was fresh, trying to get my ears wet. And so what happened was, it fell through in that venue. I ended up starting to talk out of my fiance's father's church. His name is Overseer Timothy Boston. And I started speaking over his church. And then, people, you know, people are skeptical when it comes to church. You know, some people want to come, and some people's like, nah, I'm cool, right? And so what happened was that I had a great crowd the first time, and then after that, it started to die down. So it came to the point that I was talking to two people, one person, talking to my fiance, to the point I'm talking to myself. And so when you brought that point up, a desire was that I had the desire not to give up. I had the desire because I know this was going to lead somewhere else. And so many people are watching you. At the end of the day, you don't expect, I've had so many people come up to me like, I enjoy what you're doing, Jamal. You're doing it, keep it up. You're right, but they didn't see the tears and the heartache that I had trying to do it. And so that's what keeps me going, is the desire, because I know it's going to lead me to somewhere I want to be in the future.
Wow. Great show. I'm so happy that you came to be a part of the show. Thank you for sharing all the things that you've experienced, the trip. I just want to tell you that I'm inspired by you. I seen you grow into a man that, you know, has vision. Dr. Martin Luther King had a voice. You have a voice, but don't downplay it and don't think that you can't be as great. I mean, tough shoes to fill, but why not feel it? You know, why not think that? You know, I like that your main focus is changing people. And with people like you and leaders like you, there's going to be a lot of young men that's going to grow into great people. So we're going to wrap things up. We really, Dr. Martin Luther King, we honor him. Happy birthday. Great show today. It's game time.
Out of control. Ballin'.